What's going on, everyone? We hope you had a fantastic weekend because we are set for the biggest earnings week of the entire season as we have some of the biggest companies in the market set to report. Microsoft, AMD, Amazon, Apple, Intel, Meta, Boeing, ARM, and a whole bunch of stocks are all about to report earnings, while Powell will also speak, and there will be another interest rate decision. We're coming into a crucial time of the year as well with seasonality, so I think it's going to be pretty easy to say that there will be a lot of opportunities for this week. Looking at the market on Friday, 87% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed up in the green. So, Tom, let's get right into today's video because there is a lot to cover.
Yeah, and there was a sea of green on Friday, as you can see here in the stock market. But if we look at last week as a whole, it was definitely not the greenest week ever, right? We saw a pretty big sell-off out of the QQQ, and we did see the SPY continue lower as well, from a Monday to Friday basis. So whenever I'm looking at the market here, Mike, I'm like, okay, we're starting to sell off a little bit. We're starting to see the VIX or the volatility index pop up, and we're coming into a crucial time of the year with all of the key earnings that are set to release. And Mike, you named quite a few of them, but there are so many on the list here that I don't even think I can name them all. But to begin the week, we have McDonald's before open on Monday. Then we have Tilray, a marijuana stock, in after hours tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, we have SoFi, PayPal, Pfizer, British Petroleum, Procter & Gamble, AMD, Microsoft, Starbucks, FSLR, Caesars, Lemonade, EA even down there. Like, Mike, they're going to have to make a bigger earnings list here. I'm going to have to send Earnings Whispers an email and ask them to expand this because there's just so many reporting. But, even later in the week, Meta, Amazon, Apple, Intel, there are so many. Mike, what are your favorites here on the list? Because there's quite a few.
I have to say, definitely, and this might shock some people, but I'm actually going to say Coinbase is one of the stocks towards the top of my list on Thursday after close. I feel like it's been moving in such an interesting way. And of course, the cryptocurrency area of the market does move a little bit different than, especially big tech stocks. And as we've seen over the past couple of weeks, we have seen a decent amount of profit taking come into these big tech stocks. And we've also certainly seen a slow in the cryptocurrency market, but it's nowhere near as pronounced as what we're seeing again with big tech stocks. So I'm very curious to see how Coinbase reports, and I feel like it's going to be such a pivotal moment for this stock in the short term. I would love for this stock to drop down so I could scoop up some shares for the long term, but at the same time, even if it just has like a good short-term momentum build move in the, in either direction, that would be great as well, because Coinbase, when it moves, it normally moves in a pretty strong way. But to be honest, Tom, there are so many big earnings stocks for the week. It's almost impossible to pick just one.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I know that the crypto sector has been heating up a lot as well. Whenever we see like Trump proposing the strategic national crypto stockpile over the weekend, I thought that was very interesting. I was surprised that crypto actually wasn't moving more over the weekend, but figured I'd mention that, with the Coinbase talk there. And, Coinbase will be very interesting. But like you said, there are so many on the radar here this week. I think personally, my favorites are going to be like Meta. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they're doing. And then I also, I got to go with one of my old favorites, Mike, DraftKings. I'm very interested in DraftKings earnings as well. I don't really see like the Olympics or anything like that obviously affecting the earnings. I don't want anybody to get confused with that, but it will be a very interesting earnings report nonetheless. But there's so many reporting, Mike. And guys, let us know in the comments which ones are your favorites. I'm sure a lot of people will love AMD, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Apple. I mean, there's a lot that people have to choose from here.
Exactly. And one of the main reasons earnings season is so exciting and opportunistic and just important is because, as we could see, especially for this week, when you have one of the largest clusters of just giant earnings reports all at once, it has a giant impact on the overall market, especially the earnings reports coming from these big tech stocks like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, and Meta this week, where like the direction in which they move in will have a direct impact on the market itself, and it will also have a very big indirect impact on the sentiment with the rest of the market. And then let alone the fact when you have like other smaller, I guess you could say more independent companies reporting, those just bring upon crazy moves, as we all know. And what's also super exciting about this this quarter's earnings season is that some stocks that you might not think, like 3M, are starting to move in like crazy ways, where this stock popped up by over 22% on Friday, and its options quite literally increased by like thousands of percent in one day. So this earnings season's kind of a good one. So definitely be ready for that throughout the rest of this week. But Tom, the big man's coming back as well. Jerome Powell, Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We have a new, or I guess you could say an updated interest rate decision. Powell will speak 30 minutes after that at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. The week just gets better.
Yeah, it definitely does, Mike. And I know that everybody's going to be like, okay, so what's he going to do? Is he going to pause? Is he going to cut? Right now, there's a 95% chance of a pause, it looks like. That's what the market's pricing in anyways, on this meeting. But as we know, Mike, the big thing is really about what Powell's going to do in the future, right? The market's pricing in the first rate cut to start happening on September 18th on the next interest rate decision. So that would be pretty big, right? If he continues to like give the outlook like that this is possible and that this will happen in September, that'll be awesome, right? But we have to be careful in case he says something about maybe pushing it back further, or, you know, maybe he'll flip-flop. And I'm sure some people in the comments, Mike, will even be maybe conspiracizing a little bit that he might try to, you know, do the rate cut at this meeting. But nonetheless, it's going to be a very interesting interest rate decision. I'm just going to trust what the market has here and go with it. He's probably going to pause it at this meeting. I don't think that the market is, expecting anything other than that. But Mike, it's always interesting whenever the big man speaks, right? And we're going to see a lot of things be affected, from the U.S. dollar to interest rates, and this will bleed over into stocks, metals, in commodities, and etc.
Everything, quite literally. So that'll definitely be exciting there. But as we look at, let's say, the market as a whole, Tom, SPY, like you said in the beginning of the video, popped up a little bit on Friday, but over the past couple of days, it has definitely been selling off. And the way I look at it right now is that the market doesn't have an overwhelmingly bearish sell-off in the works right now. It's more so just like pulling back in a way that's significant, but not like beyond crazy. And because of that, I'm not necessarily too urgent to get that bearish on the market. At the same time, the pullback that we have seen is a decent pullback, and as we look at the market over the past couple months, whenever it has pulled back, especially this amount, it has bounced up. So the way I look at the market right now is it's definitely like a neutral bias heading into the earnings season, but if we continue to put more pressure on recent lows, it can make a lot of sense to get bearish depending on, of course, the situation at the time. But at the same time, if we hold this support and the market is moving in a way that is, stronger than what we've seen over the past couple days, it'll go to show that, we are seeing a little bit of a short-term bounce. So I think it's very important to, of course, be adaptable like we always say, but keep in mind where we are at positionally with the market right now. And Tom, with that being said, what would you say are some of the key levels to watch in both directions for tomorrow?
Yeah, for tomorrow, there was actually a pretty big double top recently on the SPY, and I don't even have this level plotted, but 547 on Thursday and Friday was a pretty significant level. So I'll be watching for a little breakout up above 547, and past there, I'm watching 548 to 548.50, and then 550 to 551 to the upside. Those are the levels I'm watching if the market ends up popping. There was a lot of chop last week, especially Thursday and Friday around this 538 support, so that'll be a decent support coming up along with 540. So that's really what I'm watching for this week, Mike. If we start to see a big sell-off under 538, I'll definitely be watching the market down. And, there's so many earnings coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of a mixed week, right? We might see AMD and Microsoft kill it Tuesday, and then Amazon and Apple, do bad Thursday, and it might cause some big swings this week. So just keep that in mind, guys. We might see a lot of volatile moves, and personally, I'm expecting a lot of chop rather than just one direction being picked here.
Well, if we go based off historical statistics, we could see that the last couple of trading days for July do tend to be relatively strong. We're heading into that 29th day, and, again, on average, the market does tend to close in a strong way towards the end of the month. But we will see there, but good stuff overall, Tom, and let's get into some of the exciting stuff for tomorrow, which are some setups and predictions. A stock I'm watching very closely right now is CVS, and this is a stock that has fallen a ton over the past couple months, just like Walgreens, but basically CVS is starting to move in a way that, has some good momentum to it, and we can see that there's a lot of resistance overhead for this one, especially right around $62 a share. So based off the current price of $62, there's a nice little area there until we get to some significant resistance, but if we break through that, there aren't two major of resistance levels until that $64 to $65 area. So basically if CVS can pick up enough momentum here, it can really pop up in a way that it hasn't seen in a while. And I also really like the strength that it had on Friday, not only by how much it popped up, but also the consistent great price action that it had quite literally all day long. There were only a handful of pullbacks throughout the entire day on Friday, and I think that's a great thing, because even when you look at the market as a whole, it was a little bit choppy intraday on Friday. So either way, CVS is on my upside radar for the week.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching CVS very closely. It was up 4%. That was a pretty good move, and I like how it's holding above $60. That's a good sign in the short term. With my first stock, I'm looking at a stock in a similar sector, right? A healthcare stock like Pfizer. And with Pfizer, I'm looking at the daily chart. I really love the way it's been breaking out above $30. It's holding up very strong, and it's one of those stocks that doesn't have the best correlation to SPY. And, stocks like CVS, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, UNH, and I'm not even going to say that CVS is a full-on, healthcare stock, right? But it's like a pharmacy. At the end of the day, I do like the movement heading into that sector as a whole, and I do like Pfizer, so I'll be looking for a breakout above $31 tomorrow morning, and then for a continuation to the upside. It was a pretty good 2% move on Friday. Again, not the biggest move ever, but nice and consistent intraday.
Sounds good. All right, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is BABA, and this stock kind of moves in its own way as other Chinese stocks do, but the setup is somewhat similar to CVS in the sense that, on Friday, this stock basically ran up all day long, which goes to show you that there was a lot of buying interest for the stock, let alone it also had a pretty good recovery from the selling pressure that came into the stock in the early morning. But even if we look at this stock on a daily chart, we can see that it has been continuously making higher lows, which is a great thing to see. And it's now also at a point where, in terms of the past couple of months, it is now more so flat rather than actively falling like it has been over the past couple of years, which ultimately represents a slow but, significant shift in sentiment, which is a good thing. But looking at this recent price action with BABA, I really like the reward to risk in the short term to the upside. And for as long as it can continue to put pressure on its highs, I think it offers a pretty good opportunity. So with that being said, BABA is on my upside radar for the week.
Yeah, and BABA at the beginning of July started popping back up in a huge way, and I feel like it's just been consolidating for the past couple of weeks, but I love the way it's bouncing off that support, and it's starting to set up very well, Mike, so I'm definitely going to watch BABA and the China stocks coming up this week, and who knows, maybe as there's some selling pressure in our markets, maybe the Chinese investors will start to pick up a little bit, right? We might see a little rotation into there. With my next play, I'm looking at Penn Gaming, and Penn is on a major resistance. There's a big resistance right around $20 a share. And again, on Friday, they had some great price action. They ended up climbing up 8%. I know it doesn't necessarily look like it by the intraday movement because it got kind of choppy after the market opened, but I'm looking for some better movement coming this Monday and a good break of $20. So we're really looking for a good $20 break and some good pressure on the highs because whenever Penn Gaming moves, it has some pretty good movement to the upside. That's for sure.
All right, good stuff there, Tom. Well, I will keep that one close on watch as well, but let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have PayPal to the upside.
PYPL, another one of those stocks that hasn't seen the most love over the past couple of years, we'll say, but in the short term, it's starting to look a little bit better. So I'll be looking for another breakout above 58.50 in the short term.
That was a very polite way of saying it, Tom. Hasn't seen the most love. When you look at PayPal's chart, yeah, you could definitely say that as it's fallen from highs of over $300 of share all the way down to lows of like 50. But yes, for sure. So definitely good stuff with that one going forward. With the next one, we have AMD, but this one's to the downside.
Yeah, a lot of these tech stocks in the short term just continue to see a lot of bearish price action. AMD is on a pretty good support, so if it breaks under 139 come Monday, then watch it back down.
All right. And then with the last one, we have NVIDIA for both directions.
Yeah, NVIDIA here, very choppy Friday as well. The chip stocks are very choppy, and I do like the supports as well. So if the support starts to give out around 111 on NVIDIA, then watch for another move to the downside. But if support holds and NVIDIA ends up breaking back above this double top at 116.50 from Thursday and Friday, then watch for some more upside price action. And, I think that this play here is just a play where, hey, like if the other plays aren't working out, definitely be adaptable and, continue to watch these stocks back up for a possible recovery, even though there's been a lot of short-term selling pressure.
Great stuff. And Tom, there was a good book map on this one too. Don't hold back on us.
Yeah, definitely. So switching over to the book map here, there was a big support around that 110, 111 mark. So I know I mentioned 111 for a breakdown, and 110 would be the next major level coming up. There was like 700,000 shares there. If you want to be a little bit safer, maybe wait for 110 to break, or you could try to maybe play the 111 break and play like the 1 point move down to 110. That might be a super quick scalp, but it might also be a good way to go. Either way, that is a good area for support. You can see the buyers right there, and shout out the book map for the X-ray vision here, right? You got to love finding these big supports, and there was a lot of stocks to pick from today. Palantir, a lot of other stocks were on pretty major supports as well, but I do love NVIDIA on the short term with the price action, Mike. It's been pretty good. I know Thursday and Friday was choppy, but if it starts to break that support, we might see a lot more volatility.
There we go. So these are today's momentum plays. With NVIDIA, we have levels for both directions. With AMD, we have that downside level. And with PayPal, we have the upside level. Basically, if these stocks break through the levels Tom listed, we are looking for these stocks to continue in the direction listed. The stronger and more consistent these stocks move, the better the setups become. So keep them on watch for potential momentum plays for tomorrow. And besides that, let's jump right into today's $432,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol CSX. It's a boring railroad company, so it's certainly not as exciting as some biotech stock trying to cure cancer or any big tech stock out there. But still, the big money put around $432,000 into the 35 strike call options that expire on September 20th of 2024. Looking at this more specifically, these options are slightly out of the money. They have a good amount of time to them, which I like. It's also holding support in a pretty good way, and it's also making higher lows, which is great to see. And what I like to see even more than anything else, Tom, is the recent earnings report with ticker symbol NSC, which is another railroad company, and that had a great move to the upside, as well as UNP had a pretty good bullish day on Friday, as well as other railroad stocks out there. So while railroads are certainly a boring industry, we'll say it in a polite way, Tom, like you said with PayPal, there could still be good moves associated with them. In the same way, 3M is a super boring stock, but some of its options popped up by thousands and thousands of % in a single day. But regardless, looking at CSX, the big money is getting bullish on this stock. It's not the biggest big money trade ever, as the trade is, only $432,000. But it's interesting nonetheless, and I'm excited to see how it ends up playing out.
Man, Mike, over the past couple of years, whenever you said Norfolk there for a second with NSC, I was actually getting some flashbacks. Remember all that news that was going on whenever one of their train cars derailed, and then out of nowhere, we just saw news nonstop about the rail car companies or freight liners, whatever you want to call them, right? But I do think that CSX is a very interesting stock here in the short term, and I actually like the technicals on it almost more than anything else, right? Like, I love this support that it's bouncing off of here, and it's continuing to hold as well. Like, there was even a short-term dip, and we started to see it hold $33 as some of those other stocks, like you mentioned, reported earnings and moved a little bit higher. The only slight thing is that this stock does report earnings August 5th, so, you know, I guess, like, if you're going to buy this and swing it out, like, into the like towards September or the end of August, you're going to have to hold through those earnings. But, you know, based on the other earnings so far, it's not bad, right? And like, let's say that we get in now and we get some good price action heading into the earnings, then maybe you could de-risk, lock in some gains before the earnings actually happen. And obviously, I'm just giving some hypotheticals there, but that's kind of like what I would be looking for in the short term on this. But overall, Mike, I love the setup, and I love that support it's holding around 33.
All right, well, good stuff there. So keep a close eye on this one going forward. But as we look at everything, Tom, you know, it's there's no doubt about the fact that this week is going to be a big one, especially with these earnings. So let's remember, above all else, to trade in a smart way. It's so easy to look at this buffet of earnings for the week and get tempted to want to gamble with some weekly options. And if that's your thing, then by all means, go for it. But what can oftentimes be more beneficial is waiting for the earnings report to already come out and then to ride the momentum and news after the fact, as that way you get a much better deal on the options. You don't have to worry about some unpredictable earnings, and you could just trade in a way where you're just able to control your risk better and oftentimes get a better risk-adjusted reward. So definitely keep that in mind, but no matter what, let's trade in a smart way. Let's deploy healthy, long-term, sustainable trading habits. Jerome Powell will speak on Wednesday as well, and again, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, not just this week, but throughout the rest of the year, quite frankly, but especially over these like next couple of months. There's a lot going on in the market right now, and things are heating up quite a bit, and that is made more than evident by the way the VIX is moving. So exciting times are ahead. It's a great time to be a trader. If you guys want in on the action with especially short-term trading and chatting with Tom and myself all day long, as well as our bots, check out that first link in the description and the comments down below to get in on the Stocked Up trading floor. We have an amazing community in there, and it's the place to be if you're into short-term trading. Not only do you get access to all the big money trades on the same day the trade is made, which, you know, is before we talk about them in the videos, you also get access to all of our bots. You can chat with Tom and myself all day long. You can join our live events and just chat with a great community. So check it out. It'll be that first link in the description and the comments down below. Before we move out of the Discord, Tom, let's give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Jay Backman, who certainly crushed it last week, as we can see by that screenshot. So great job there, and keep rolling into this week. Besides that, thank you all so much for watching. If you are new to the channel, consider demolishing the subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. And besides that, let's have an amazing week in the market.